Hi there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a full stack Spotify clone with React and Redux. Yes guys, we are going to be creating the full stack Spotify clone from the UI and the functionality for listening the songs, for playing it, for making the volume high, down, and even downloading these songs from the Spotify clone. Yes guys, so as you can see over here on the front end of my screen, we are having the Spotify clone that I have created already. On the left hand side, we are having the thumbnail and the title and the order of the songs. On the down bottom, we are having the player, and on the right hand side, we are having the list of the songs that we have added in a JSON file. So for an example, if I want to listen a song, when I just click on this play button, the song will start playing, as you can see, with the beautiful on it, it's gonna pause. Even you can shuffle the musics, and if you want to go back, you can just go back, and to the next songs you can just click on this button. For an example, if you want to switch directly from the IDE, when you just click on the song, as you can see, you're switched, and you are seeing the thumbnail is also changed, and the song starts playing. So this is the full stack Spotify clone, and we have used for creating it, that is React and Redux. So without wasting the time, let's start creating the full stack Spotify clone in React. So if you need the source code, the source code is provided on the GitHub repository. The link will be provided in the description below. As you can see over here, this is the full stack Spotify clone with React.js, in which you can play music and you can download it too. And when I do scroll down, here we are having the readme.md file, in which you are going to be getting the commands to run after you have cloned this project from GitHub. And we are having some of the screenshots how's its UI gonna look like. Great. And after creating the Spotify clone for the website with React.js, if you need a tutorial video on how to create a Spotify app with React Native, just comment down below. I will create a next video on how to create a Spotify clone with React Native. So do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. So let's start. So here is my fresh React project, which you can see over here, in which we are having a simple blank screen. So now let me just minimize my browser screen and open it in VS Code editor. Great. So as you can see, I have cleaned my index.js file, and I have created a SVG folder in which I am having some index.js file, which is including the SVG animations. Great. So just ignore this folder for now. Come to this components folder. In this components folder, I have included all of the CSS files in one CSS directory. So it will help us to manage our project more nicely. So why I'm not showing you the CSS file? Because I want to keep the video shorter. Great. So the source code will be provided to you. You can use the CSS files from there. Great. So now this is our index.css file, which is also done over here, which I have created already. So let's start working with the JavaScript files. So the first main thing comes over here to work with the index.js file. Before that, I will show you which are the packages that I have installed in this for creating the Spotify clone. So here the first package is for the Font Awesome package. The second one is the Axios package. Third one is the FS package. The another one is going to be the React Redux package, and the last one is going to be the Redux package. You can install these packages in your React project from the npm.js website. The link will be provided in the description below. You can just search for any packages you need in the website for React. Great. So let's start working with our index.js file. So let's start writing the first command, that is import react from react. Let me import react DOM now. Great. After that, I will be importing the index.css file. Now let me import the app.js file, which is not yet created, but I will be creating it inside my components folder / I will be calling it as app.js file. Great. Now let me import some components from the Redux. So the first one I'll be importing is going to be the reducers. That will be imported from a reducers folder that is not yet created, but I will be creating it soon. Now I will import a create store from Redux. Awesome. Now I will be importing the last thing, that is going to be a provider. That I will be importing it from React Redux. Great. Now let me create a component that will run our app.js file. So it's going to be named as Rooty, and every component should return something. Great. So now in this return, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using a provider. And now in this provider, I'm going to be calling my app component. And now inside my first provider tag, I will be using a store keyword over here, in which I'm going to be creating a store. Great. And the first parameter that I'm going to provide is going to be the reducers parameter. The second one, just follow me, that is window.__redux. Then underscore, we are going to be using the devtools _ the extension. Then we're going to go with _ space and then we're going to be adding the window._redux devtool extension method. That's it, guys. We are all set. So no need to understand what is this happening over here. The thing that you need to do over here is that you need to copy the line of code and paste it in your. And now we are all set with our index.js file. Let me just render it out. So react DOM.render method over here, in which I'm going to be calling my Rooty component that I've created, comma, where I need to render it. So document.getElementById, and in my HTML I need to render it in my root ID. That's it. And now we are all set with my index.js file. The first thing that I'm going to do over here is that I'm going to align my terminal on the right hand side. So how can I do that? Let me see. This is how we can split it. This is also for splitting it. How can I just make it align on the right hand side? Okay, so I think so I will just keep it simple. Let me just close it out. Okay, great. So here's my index.js file. Now let me create my app.js file. So I will be creating my app.js file in my components folder. So I'm going to right click, create a new file, and I'll name it as app.js. That's it. So this is the CSS directory, which is including all of my CSS files for all of my JavaScript code. Alright, got it? Great. So now we are all set with our components and with our index.js file. So now in my index.js file, you can see over here I have imported a reducers directory. So what I'm going to do over here is that I'm going to be creating a new folder that will be named as reducers. Great. In this reducers folder, we are going to be having an index.js file. So let me right click and create a new file, and I will name it as index.js. Great. This is the file that will be including all of the functionality for making our player work. Okay, so we are not going to be working with it now. We are just going to be keeping our code simple, so it will be really good for you all guys to understand what is happening from beginning. If I'll just go to the beginning and in between I will just go to the hard files, hard coded files for the players and all, you will be confused and you will leave the video and search for some of the easy one. But you are in the correct video. I will explain you from the beginning to the advance. So now let's come to source folder, create a new folder over here and name it as data. So now first of all I will explain you the structure of my code. Alright, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand what is happening over here. So this is the components which is going to be including all of our main functionality files. This is the data file that is going to be including the data for our songs. This is the reducer file which is going to be including the functionality of our player. And this is the SVG directory that is just including a JS file that is having all of our SVG animations. And this is our index.js file that renders our front end, right? So now let's come to the data. And now in this data we are going to be creating two files. So let me right click and create the first file that is going to be metadata.json file. Now the second file we are going to be creating, that is going to be the songs.json file, which is going to be having all of our songs data over here. So let's come to the meta.json file and let's create an object over here, in which first key that we're going to be having is going to be the app name. Now you need to enter your app name over here, and then you need to enter your app version over here. So my app version is going to be 0.0.1. Now what is my app name? For getting your app name, you need to come to this package.json file and scroll to the top, and this is your app name. So I'm just going to be copying it up from my package.json file and pasting it over here in my metadata.json file. And that's it for your metadata.json file. Let's come to our songs.json file. So songs.json file, as I said before, it is going to be including all of our data. So I'm just going to be copying it from my notepad and pasting it over here for keeping the time shorter, because it is so much of data, alright, that I have just ready. So as you can see over here, I will be explaining you the first data, how it is working and how's the structure. We are having an array. In that array we are having an objects. We are having the key for the name, we are having the author, we are having the URL. The URL is including the song in MP3 format. We are having the ID, which is provided to all of our list items. Then we are having the links, which is this links. This link is including an object which is having an images, and the images is an array of an object. We are having two objects in this images array. The first one is including the image for our thumbnail of our song. The second URL is including the image of the author, right? I will explain you over here. Let me just open my browser. This is the first image, and the second image which you can see over here, this is the author's image, which is being displayed over here. So this is the structure of our songs.json file, which is going on over here. As you can see, it's the whole large file of the code that is over here, right? So now that's it for this songs.json file. Now I'm just going to close all of the other file other than this songs.json. Now let me just collapse my structure. So now we have completed our data and we have completed our index.js file, right? Now the thing that we need to work is with the actions. So right click on the source folder and create a new folder over here that is going to be actions. And in this actions, create a new file that will be named as index.js. So this file is going to be including the functionality when the user clicks on a button, which type the user have clicked on and what it should do, right? So that is why we have created this folder of an action that will be happening when the user clicks on the player or on the songs. Great. So we are all set with our folder structures. Now just we need to create the files and go on working on it. So now the first thing is that we're going to be working on is going to be the reducers file, in which we're going to be writing all of the functionality for our code to work. Great. So let me just close all of our other files over here and open this up. Great. Awesome. So let's start working over here. So in this index.js file, the first thing that we're going to be doing is going to be importing a combine reducers from Redux. Great. And the second file is going to be that we're going to be importing is going to be the songs. So import these songs from, in our data folder, we are having the songs.json file that we're going to be importing. Great, we are all set. Now we are going to be having this so many components over here. So first let's create the component, and then we're going to be writing the functionality in it, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand that which all functions we are going to be calling in this reducers file. So the first component that is going to be the songs reducer, and every component should return something. Great. The second component that we're going to be creating is going to be the selected song ID reducer. Great. Now let me create the third component over here, that is going to be player state reducer, and the fourth one is going to be volume reducer component. And after the volume reducer, we are going to be having the component that is going to be for the duration reducer. And after that, we are going to be having a component for the current location reducer. Now the last component, that is going to be our main component that will be exported by default, which is going to combine all of these reducers. Great, so we are all set. Now what I'm going to do in this combine reducers method over here, which is an object which is going to be taking the keys and its values. So let me assign it. So for the songs key, we are going to be calling a method that we have created over here, or a component you can say, that is songs reducer, that way you can see over here we have created. We're going to be doing with all of these components the same thing. So second one is going to be for our selected song ID, in which we are going to be calling this selected song ID reducer method, or a component. Let's go with the player state, in which we're going to be calling this player state reducer component. Then we're going to be having a volume, in which we're going to be calling this volume reducer component. Then we're going to be having a duration, in which we're going to be calling this duration reducer component. Then we're going to be having the current location, in which we're going to be calling this current location reducer component. Great guys, so we are all set with our combine reducer method. So let's start working with all of these components functionality. So when we just do call this songs reducer, we are going to be passing this component our songs. So when we call this songs reducer component, we are going to be returning all of our songs that is there in our songs.json file. Now let's come to our second component, which is selected song ID reducer, which is going to be taking two parameters in it. One is going to be the selected song ID. By default it is going to be 0, and the second parameter is going to be the action. So these parameters are going to be working on all of our components. So let me complete this first component functionality with the if and if else loop, and then I will explain you in a more depth. So let's go. If my action dot type is triple equal to song underscore selected, and this functionality will be going in our actions directory. Alright, and now if it is song selected type, then I'm going to be returning my action dot payload dot id, and then I'm going to say if my action dot type is triple equal to song underscore selected underscore by underscore id, I'm going to be returning action dot payload. And now let me return my selected song id. Great. So now what is happening over here, when this component is called, it is going to be taking a two parameters. So first go to the naming convention over here, selected song id reducer, the song that we are going to be selecting. So by default I created the variable over here that is selected song id, to which I am assigning a value of 0. By default the first song is going to be selected, and the second parameter is the action that will be called when the user clicks on any of the buttons, and it action is going to be going in this action directory, which we are going to be working on after this reducers. So I'm saying over here, if my action dot type is song selected, I'm returning this action dot payload dot id. This payload and these IDs are going to be defined in my actions file. So don't worry about it at all. When we're going to be working with the actions file, I will explain you this reducers file in more depth. The second if statement is taking that if my action type is song selected by id, I'm going to be returning the action dot payload, and then we are going to be returning that selected song's id that will be working on our Spotify clone. Now let's come to our third component, that is player state reducer, which is also going to be taking the two parameters. The first one is going to be the player state. By default I'm going to be assigning it a value of 0, and the second parameter is going to be action. Now I'm saying if my action dot type is triple equal to player underscore state underscore selected, and even I'm checking for if my action dot payload is false, then I'm going to be returning a player state that will be added by 1 and divided by 2. Now we're going to be using an else if loop over here, in which I'm going to say if my action dot type is triple equal to player underscore state underscore selected, what I'm going to check even, that is action dot payload should be true. If it is true, I will be returning my action dot payload. And now let me return my player state. Great. Now we are having our third component, that is the volume reducer component, which is going to be also taking the two parameters. The first one is going to be the volume. The default value for the volume is going to be 100, as we said and even showed you in our created Spotify clone. And the second one is going to be the action. I'm gonna say if my action dot type is triple equal to set underscore volume, I'm going to be returning my action dot payload. And now let me just return volume. That's it for our volume reducer component. Now let's work on the duration reducer component, which is also going to be taking the two parameters. The first one is going to be the duration. By default, of course, our song's duration is going to be 0, and the second parameter is going to be the action. I hope you're understanding it. Is really easy. I hope you're understanding it. If you're having some issues related to the understanding, like if you're not understanding what I'm doing over here or what I'm explaining, you can just connect to my Discord. The link will be provided in the description below. Or you're having any errors, or you're facing any kind of an errors while creating this Spotify clone, just leave your error in my Discord channel. The link will be provided in the description below. So in my duration reducer, what I'm going to say over here, if my action dot type is triple equals to set underscore duration, right, set underscore duration, I'm going to return action dot payload. That's it. Now let me return my duration. Now let's come to our last component, that is the current location reducer, which is going to be also taking the two parameters. By default the location is going to be 0 and the second parameter is going to be action. Now if my action dot type is triple equal to set underscore current underscore location, if my action type is set underscore current underscore location, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return action dot payload. Great. And then I'm going to return my location. Simple. So guys, I know you're not understanding what does this type means now, but don't worry about it at all. Now we have finished working with our reducers.js file. Now we are going to be working with our actions.js file, in which we're going to be defining all of these types. So in my action folder, just create a new folder, that file that is going to be named as index.js, which I think so I've created. Let me just delete this file. Yes, it's created. Let me open my actions index.js file and close this JSON file, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand what is happening over here. So once again, let me explain you. So now this is the reducers file, which is going to be including all of our functionalities that is going to be happening when the user is going to be clicking, and we're going to be accessing the type. And the types are going to be defined in our actions.index.js file. Great. I think so you guys, you got that. So let's work with our actions.js file. So let's create a export by default components over here. Select song is going to be our first one, which is going to even taking some values, but before that let's keep it simple. And every component should return something, but in this return we are going to be using it as an object. Now let me copy this component and create it for the second one, and even provide some space in between, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand it out. Okay, so the first component is, or you can just go, yeah, it's a component, select song, which is going to be taking a value of song in it. Okay, now when the user selects songs, what I'm going to return over here is going to be a type, and a payload. So the payload is going to be the song, and the type that I'm going to be doing over here is going to be song selected, right? So let me explain you what is happening now in this reducers file. When the user clicks on it, I'm going to be calling this component, that is select song component, and that is calling a type of song selected. When this is called, then this type is called over here. If my type is song selected, I'm going to select my action.payload.its ID. Great. And that function is going to work our songs. So now let's come to the second one, that is select song, which is going to be taking ID as a parameter in it. And now we're going to be saying if our type is song underscore selected underscore by underscore ID, then I will set my payload to that ID. Great. So we are all set. Now we are having the third one, that is going to be the second one is not for the select song. The second one is going to be for select song by ID. I just forget to rename it, guys. Great. So the third component is going to be for the setting the player state, which is going to be taking a parameter that is going to be value. And now in return, I'm going to set the type, that is going to be player underscore state underscore selected, and the payload is going to be value that we have passed as a parameter. So let me explain you what is happening over here. When this component is called, that is set player state, I'm setting its type to player state selected. Now if I come to my reducers.js file and see over here, as you can see this player state selected, I'm saying if my action dot type is player state selected, and if it is false, I'm going to return my player state, and I'm going to be adding it by 1 and dividing it by 2. So this is happening that we are defining a type over here, and that if the type is true, we are going to return this thing which is defined in our reducers.js file. Once again, the type is defined in my actions.js file. When this type is true in our reducers.js file, if my action type is the player state selected, which I have defined over here, we are going to be returning this thing. So I think we got it what is happening in our actions.js file and in our reducers.js file, right? So let me just close out my reducers.js file because we have finished working with it, right? So after my set player state, we are going to be having the another component that is going to be set volume, which is going to be taking a parameter which is going to be value, and in the return I will be setting the type that is going to be player state or set underscore volume. I apologize for that. And the payload is going to be the value. Now what I'm going to do over here is that I'm going to be copying this component and pasting it. So after my set volume, I'm going to be having two more components. So the next component is going to be for setting the duration, which is going to be taking a value, and the type is going to be set underscore duration. The last component is going to be for setting the current location, which is going to be taking a value as its parameter, and the type is going to be set underscore current underscore location. Great. So guys, we are all set with our types. That's it for our actions.js file and reducers.js file, and we have completed the backend work now. These are the backend files, the reducers.js file and the actions.js file, which is going to be including all of our functionalities that will be working in our front end. Right guys? Yes. So we have finished with our backend. Now let's work with our front end design that is going to be done in our components folder. So alright guys, here is my components folder. In this components folder, I have created this app.js file that is going to be my front end. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to be doing over here is that I will be writing the basic import statements of React. Import React from React. Then let me import the CSS. That is app.css, which is located in a CSS directory. And now I will be importing a navbar from the components folder only, but the file name is navbar.js. Great. So now over here, let me create an app component. Every component or a function in React should return something. So in this return, I will be using the React fragment. In this React fragment, the first thing that I will be applying is going to be the navbar for our Spotify clone. Simple. Great. And then at the bottom, I will be having an anchor tag, which is going to be having an href. For an example, I'm just going to keep simple as a default hashtag or an empty hashtag. Just I have kept a named or focused, and I will be providing this anchor tag an ID that is going to be focus hyphen link, and it will be hidden. And I will display the text over here that is going to be go to playing element. Simple. Now let me export this app component by default. Now when I do save it, and if I do open my project, as you can see, nothing is being displayed over here. And now it should display me an error that the navbar.js file is not located, as you can see over here. So for that, what I'm going to do, the first thing is that I will be keeping this clone opened over here, and that's it. Great. So now Now I will be creating this navbar.js file inside my components. So inside my components directory, I'm going to right click, create a new file, and I will name that file as navbar.js. In this navbar.js file, I will be writing the code for my Spotify header. So let me import React. Now let me import the CSS that I have written for my navbar, which is located in CSS directory navbar.css. Great. And after that, I will be importing the metadata. Okay. That will be imported from our data directory that I've created and the metadata.json file. Great, that's it. Now let me create a navbar component. So why we're importing this metadata.json file? Because we need to display the name of our application that we have defined in this data directory and in this metadata.json file, which is Spotify clone-react, right? So let me now close this JSON file and keep it simple. Now I will be having a return in this component, and I will export this component by default navbar. Now let me style my header. So first of all, I will be having a div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be navbar, and after that I will be having a font awesome icon that I am using for Spotify. So fab-Spotify. Great. Now when I do save it, and if I do come to my project and refresh, as you can see over here, the icon is not being displayed, but we are getting our navbar background color being displayed over here. Great. So here's my I tag for the Spotify icon. After that, I will be having a div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be our app's header. And now I need to display the app name that I have defined in my metadata.json file. So for displaying what I'm going to do is I will be selecting the import name, that is metadata, and the thing that I want to display from that specific JSON file, its key, that is app name. Great. After this div, I'll be having another div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be nav-links. And in this div, I'll be having an anchor tag which is going to be having an href, which is going to be hashtag. And now let's add a target. When the user clicks on this anchor tag, we need to open that specific page in a new window or in a new page. Yeah. So I'll be adding this underscore blank keyword over here. And then the rel I'm going to be keeping, that is going to be nor Ferrer. Great. And here's my anchor tag in which I'll be having the font awesome icon for the GitHub. So which is going to be having a class name that is going to be fab-GitHub. Great. So now let me save it and let me open my project. As you can see, the Spotify clone React is being displayed over here, but why our font awesome icons are not being displayed? So I'll be just checking it out. So let me just open my code editor, and now what I'm going to do over here is that I will be opening my package.json file and see whether the font awesome is imported over here or not. So as you can see guys, the font awesome is imported over here, but why it's not working yet? Why it is not being displaying the icon to us? Let me check it once. Is there any other library to import? Let me just come back to navbar.js file over here. Everything is correct, but still it's not working. So what I'm going to do over here is that now guys, I'm going to be opening a new tab and come back to the npm.js website again and install the font awesome package once again. Let's see whether the error is going to be fixed or not. So these are the small errors that you will be getting while you're building any kind of an applications. So over here, I will be searching for the font awesome package. So as you can see, the first link, I'm going to be opening that. And now I will be copying this installation command. Now let me just minimize it. And now what I'm going to do is I will be opening my terminal. Open a new window for the terminal and paste the command over here. And now it's going to be installing this font awesome package in our application. Great. Because the naming conventions are all things are correct, so let's try installing the package once again. So as you can see, now the package is installed. Now if I do open my React project once again and refresh it out, still the font awesome icons are not being displayed over here, right guys? So just ignore it. We'll see it at the end of our project, what is happening over here. Alright guys, so now we have finished working with our header, right? That means our navbar. Now we are going to be working with our songs list header. So now let me import over here. What we are going to be working with, I'm going to be showing you over here is that, like when you come to my created clone, now we have created our header, right? Now we're going to be working with this song list header. That means this hashtag, title, author, and this arrow icon. Great. So let me import song list header from song list header.js file. And now I need to create this file. So I will be coming inside my components, creating a new file of song list header.js file. Right? Now let me even call it in my React fragment. Great. And now I'm going to be coming to this file and writing the basic React component. This component is going to be returning by default a heading one, that is going to be list header, to check whether it is being displaying in our Spotify clone or not. And I will be exporting it by default song list header. Great. And now let me even import the CSS file for it. So import CSS for this song list header.css. Great. Now let me save it, and now let me open my created project and refresh. So as you can see, the list header text is being displayed over here, right or not? Right guys? Yeah. So that means the component is being rendered in our front end. So let's start creating our list header. So I'll be having a div which is going to be having a class name over here, that is going to be song-item header. In this div, I'll be having one more div which is also going to be having a class name, that is going to be index, in where I will be displaying the IDs for our songs. Then the another div which is going to be having a class name, that is going to be the name of the song, that means the title. Now let me create one more div which is going to be having class name. This is going to be for the author. Now the last div in which we're going to be displaying the download icon for downloading the songs from our Spotify clone. So let me create a div which is going to be having a class name of selector, and in this we are going to be having the font awesome icons which is going to be having a class name of chevron-down, and that's it. We are all set with our song list header. Now let me open my project, and as you can see, we got this beautiful hashtag, title, author, but the icon is not being displayed over here. We will see what is the issues that is happening with our icons, so don't worry about it at all for now. Okay, so let me minimize it, and now we have successfully finished working with our songs list header file also, right? So we have created our navbar, we have created our song list header. Now we are going to be creating the page for our song detail. So let me import song detail page from song detail.js file that we're going to be creating it now. But before that, let me render it over here. And let me create a new file, naming it as songdetail.js file. Great. So now in this songdetail.js file, what we're going to be doing over here is that we will be displaying the album's image. That means the side part. I'll show you in our created Spotify clone, this one. All right, so now let me write the basic import statements over here. First of all, import the React. Second, we are going to be importing the connect from our React-Redux. And the last import statement is going to be for selecting the song. So select song that will be imported from our actions directory that we have created, right? So now over here in the song detail page, that's the main page, right, in which you're going to be displaying all of the details. So let me create a component, song detail component, that is going to be an object. So first ID that I'm going to provide over here is going to be the selected song ID. That is going to be -1. So we will be selecting the first song by default. The second one is going to be for the default song. The third one is going to be for the selecting the songs variable, and the last one is going to be the songs variable, which is not having any kind of a value for now. Great. In this, I'm going to be creating a component that is going to be rendering the songs data. So we have created this songs data that is going to be rendering the songs. After this const component, I'll be having my main return for my song detail page, which is going to be having a div and a class name that is going to be song-detail. Alright, in this div we are going to be even having some stylings provided to it. So let me add it over here. Styling that is going to be having a background image. Okay, that we are not going to be defining it now, so we are just going to be keeping it empty for now. Okay, or let me just not provide the stylings for now. Let me just keep it simple with the class name for this div. And now inside this I need to define my song data component, right? So now here is our main component that we're going to be working with, that is song data. So here I will be using the if else statement. I will say if my selected song ID is greater than or equal to 0, I will return the lists, right? So over here I will be using the short forms for the React fragment. This means the React fragments, alright, so don't be confused at all. And in this I'll be having a div which is going to be having a class name of now-playing. And in this I'll be having a div which is going to be having an ID of active. Great. And in this I'll be displaying the now playing text in a strong tag that you can see it over here. This one, now playing, which is there inside a strong tag, right? So after this div for an ID of an active ends, I'll be creating a div which is going to be having a class name that will be for the header. In this we are going to be displaying the songs title, right? So I will be using an object in which I'm going to select my songs variable, and I will be using this empty array in which I will be using the selected song ID. Alright, and then I'll be using the concatenate operator, and what I need to display the name. in simple words, right? So if you are being confused, don't worry about it at all. I will be explaining you the code after finishing it, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand it more nicely. So as you can see, this div ends over here for our now playing text and for the name of our song that we are going to be playing. After this div, we are going to be creating another div which is going to be having a class name that will be for the album's image, or I mean to say the song's image. So it is going to be named as album-img. So now in this div, I'll just keep it empty for now. Okay, and now I'll be creating another div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be artist-image, in which I will be using the image tag which is going to be having a source and even the alt text. Alright guys, so let me just divide it in a different line so it will be really easy to understand the code more nicely and more clearly, right? So let me just align my code, and now I need to display the image. So I'll be selecting my songs. I'll be using an array in which I'll be passing the selected songs ID dot. What I need is I need to display the image which is a links. So I'll be using the links which is there inside a link object. So I'll be using links dot images, then the index of the image, the first image. So I'll be using the 0, and it is there inside a URL. So I'll be using the dot URL method over here. Now I need to display the name of the author. So songs square brackets selected song ID, and now what I need to display, I need to display the author's name if the image is not being displayed, right? So for that we are going to be displaying the author. So after the image ends over here, I would like to display the author's name. So I will be using a paragraph which is going to be having a class name that is going to be, let's go with artist name class, and what I need to display, songs square brackets selected song ID. Now dot what I need to display is author, right? And we are all set guys. We are totally set with it. Now after our return ends over here, I will be using an else statement. If it do not exist, I will be displaying the first song by default. So if the user is not selecting, so I will select the song that is going to be the default song by default. Alright guys, and then I'm going to be returning null. It is really simple. Now for displaying it in a front end, I'm having this return statement, right? And now I'll be adding a style over here for a background. So style, in which I would like to display the background image. I will be using the backsticks over here, and I'll display it in a URL. So let me go with the $songs square brackets selected song ID. Then I'll be using the dot links dot images. The image that I would like to display is in the index number 1, and it is a URL image. So I'll be defining it as an URL. Simple guys. Now I need to call my song data component over here that I've created, right? So for calling it, I will be using this curly braces, and I will call that function how we do it in same JavaScript. Simple, right? So now let's create another component over here that will be named as map state to props, which is a component which takes a parameter of a state in it. Now we are going to be returning it as an object, not as an simple return or a JavaScript code. So it's an object which is going to be having the name or a key and its value. So the selected song ID is going to be using the state dot selected song ID. Then we are going to be having a default song, in which I'll be selecting my state dot songs by default is going to be the first song. So I'm providing the index of it, that is 0. And now I would like to display the all of the songs. Simple, state dot songs. And now we are all set with it. Now let me export it by default. Right guys, that is the main thing. So now let me export these components by default so we can easily access it out. So I will be using the connect method over here for exporting it, and I will be providing the map state to props component, the first thing to export, and the second thing I need to export is going to be our selected song. Cool. And over here even I will be exporting the songs detail. That's it. Let's save it and let's check whether it is working fine or not. Here's my created Spotify clone, and here's the create Spotify clone that I'm creating now. So I'm getting the error over here that is about this selected song ID is not defined, which is on line number 12. So let me come over here. Okay, so it's not selected song like that, it's in capital ID. Okay, this is the first error, and let's see what's the second error. That is this song detail, which is defined in the line number 53. That is this one, right? So it is not this small s, it's the capital S. My apologize. Okay, so let me just open it back, and boom guys, as you can see by default it is displaying me this now playing, sing me to sleep, everything, right? Great. So we are all set with our this part. Now let me see, I think so I've not yet imported the CSS file, that's why the CSS is looking so awkward. So let me import the CSS file over here, that is song detail.css. and now when I just do open my project, and boom guys, as you can see it is displaying so clearly and amazing. So this is the default song thumbnail and the order that is being displayed over here, right? So now let me explain you the code, what happened over here in this song details page. So it is really simple. Alright guys, so the first thing that is done over here is that we have imported this connect statement from the React Redux that is helping us to export our components. Okay, then I have imported this select song from our actions. If I do open that file, as you can see this select song the user has selected. That is the component that I'm importing from the actions. Then I'm importing a simple CSS file. Then I created a song detail component over here which is taking some of the parameters in it. That is selected song ID. By default I will be returning the first song that I have used over here -1. Then we do have this default song, select song, the user is going to be selecting, and the songs, all data as a parameter in it. Then just ignore this component and this return statement for now and come to this component that we have created, that is map state to props, which is taking a parameter of state in it. Then I'm assigning the values to these variables or parameters that I've created over here. For the selected song ID, I'm selecting my state dot I'm saying the selected song ID. Default songs value is going to be from our state dot songs by default 0. That means the first song I will be displaying by default. Then I do have this songs over here in which I'm using the state dot songs to display all of these songs, right guys? Yeah, of course. So that all things we do get from our select song that we have defined in our action file. Now let's come to this song data component over here. What is happening? I'm saying if my selected song ID is greater or equal to 0, I will be displaying this statement. That means the ID that the user is going to be selecting, if it is greater than 0, greater than the default first song, then we are going to be changing our list over here that we are displaying, right? So it is when the user selects the song. So I'm using the React fragments over here and I am displaying this now playing text, and for displaying the data, from getting the data from the JSON file that we have created, for that what I'm doing over here is that I'm using this object in which I'm defining the songs over here. Then inside that array I'm passing the selected song ID, the ID or the song that the user has selected, its ID, and that specific ID's value for the name I'm fetching and displaying over here. That means a key, you can say. So dot name. Same thing we are doing with the images and with the order, right? And over here by default we are going to select our song, that is going to be our default song, and return null. And over here in our main component return statement, I'm just displaying this background image, which you can see it over here, right? So here div we are to have, and the background image is assigned same like we have done with our name for the song. Dollar curly braces songs selected songs id links dot images. So for an example, if I do open my songs.json file, as you can see we are having this links in which you do have images and it's a URL, right? So you can understand it more easily now. Selected songs id, go inside the links, in that we are having an images key, and I need to select the second image, so its index is going to be 1, and it's a URL, so I'm using the URL over here to display the image properly. And in this div I'm calling my song data method, so it will be rendering whenever our page loads. As you can see, song data method, as we do it in our JavaScript when we do call the functions, right guys? Yeah, so we are all set with our song detail page also. So now if I do open my project and we see over here, we have completed our navbar, we have completed our song list header, but as you can see the CSS is not yet applied, right? So let me open my code editor and come to the header, and let me see whether I have imported the CSS file or not. As you can see over here I have imported it, but it is not displaying. Why so? So let me open my CSS file, and I do have the song list header in which even I do have stylings, but why it is not displaying to us? There's some error. .css song list header.css, everything should display correctly, but it is not. So let me do refresh it once again. So why it is not being displayed? Let me right click and inspect it out. I do have this div, and if I do see over here for the stylings, it is applied, it is being applied, but why it is not displaying? So let me just check out my CSS file for that. Song list header.css, yeah, it's same guys. So why it is not being applied? There is some error that is being occurred over here. Let me just come to my code editor, come to my app.js and see it over here whether I have imported the app.css file or not. Yeah, it's imported. Okay, so let's keep it simple guys. So we'll just see what's the error at the end. But before that, we have completed our navbar, we have completed our song list header and our song details page. So the next thing that we are going to be working with, that is going to be songs list. That means this one, which you can see it over here. This is the song list now that we're going to be displaying. So that's the main project. That's the main thing when it comes, in which you're going to be even adding the download functionality, right? So let me just close my console and come back to the VS Code editor. Great. Alright, so now let me just close all of these extra files other than this app.js file, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand what is happening in the code and in which file we are working now. So now what I'm going to do over here is that I will be importing the song list from our song list.js file, and now let me just call it inside my return. Great, so we are all set now. Now let me create a file that is going to be named as songlist.js file, and now let's start working with it. So now let me add some basic import statements. First of all, I will be importing the CSS file that is for the song list.css file, and now let me import song item from song item.js file. So now what I'm going to do over here is that I'll be creating one more file that is going to be named as song item.js file. Great. So now in the songlist.js file, I will be creating a component that will be named as songlist, and every component or a function in React should return something. So for now, I'm going to be keeping it simple and exporting this component that will be exported by default song list. Great. So now, before the return, I'll be creating a variable over here, or you can say a simple component that is going to be our songs tags. So I will be using the songs. I'll be selecting my songs. Okay, so from where I'm getting the songs, so I'll be passing a parameters value as an object in it that is going to be songs. By default, we are setting it to as an empty array. Now we're just going to be getting the value. So I'm going to be selecting my songs and I'm going to be mapping through its data. All right, well, one is going to be the song and the another one is going to be its index. Now in this, I'll be returning my song item dot component or a JS file that I've created. It's a component. Think it's simple that it's a component to which I'm passing my songs data. So song is going to be the song that I got, a single item song, that how I want it to be displayed in my front end, and the key is going to be index, and of course the index is going to be index. And now let me close this song item. And now inside my main return, what I would like to display is that a div which is going to be having an ID of song list, and I would like to display the tags over here. So song tags. That is my song tags component that I've created. Simple. So now let me close this statement and save it. Now if I do come to my front end and see over here, as you can see, nothing is being displayed over here, right guys? Yeah. So now let me come to my song item.js file in which we are going to be styling our first line of code. That means, for an example, this thing, and then it will be mapping through the data. So I will explain you what happened in the songlist.js file. I created a component. It's just taking a value of songs as an empty array in it. Then I created a component of songs tags in which I'm mapping through these songs. We are getting two values. One is song and one is index. And I'm returning this song item in which I'm passing that single value, a song, to this component. And then I'm calling it in my front end, as you can see it over here. Right guys? Yeah. Alright. Great. So now let me come to my song item and let's start styling it over here. So first let me add the import statement. I'll be importing the use state hook from React. The first thing. The second thing is that I'll be importing the CSS file. Song item.css file. Now the next thing is that I'll be importing the connect and the use dispatch that will be imported from React-Redux. And now let me import select song from the actions. Great. So we are all set. Now let me create the component for the song item. And every component or a function should return something. Right? Of course. So now in the song item component, it is going to be taking the values that I need to display in front end. So the first one is going to be the song, second one is going to be its index, third one is going to be the song that the user has selected, and the selected songs ID. And the next thing I would like to display is player's state. Now I'll be creating the state variables for it. So the first state variable is going to be set hovered. So const, and I'll be setting it as hovered. So we don't need hover to be displayed, so I'm not going to be using it as hovered. So I'm just simply using this set hovered over here. Right guys? Yeah. And that equals to use state. By default it is going to be false. Second one is going to be for the dispatch. usage. So I'll be calling my dispatch method over here for being using it in our project. Now I'm not going to be working with the return statement. I'm going to be creating one more component in this song item component that will be named as selector. And now this component is going to be returning something. Alright, so we do have a code over here for that SVG animation. Let me just copy and paste it over here. So what is this? This thing is when I do open my created project, and if you see over here the animation when I do play the song, this is the SVG animation that we are displaying it in our front end, right? So I created an anchor tag which is having the href, that is our song's URL that we need to play related to it. Then we do have this SVG animation with its path. It is really simple, you don't need to go more deeper in it. Okay, so here our this components end over here. Now we are going to be setting whether our song is active or not. So I'm going to set whether my song is active or not. Let me provide it a comment, so when I will be providing you the source code, it will be easy for you all guys to understand that which code is written for what specific functionality. So let me create a variable over here that is going to be the song now selected, that equals to, I'll be using the selected song ID over here, triple equals to songs ID, then I will be setting it to active class. Otherwise it's not going to be having any kind of a class, so it will be not selected. So I created this variable. I'm using the selected songs ID. If it do match with our song ID, then I'm setting its class to active, otherwise no class. Now let me set the GIF animation over here. So I'll be providing a comment over here. Let me scroll down and let me provide a comment that is going to be set the GIF. Great, and let me create a component for it that is going to be PHASER, faster. Okay, and simple. And now we are going to be using the if else statement over here. We are gonna say if my selected song ID is triple equals to the song's ID, and we're even going to check our player state. Then I'm going to be returning a div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be index, and in this div I would like to display the image which is alt is going to be empty, and the source is going to be / playing.gif in simple words. Then the ID that I'm going to be providing it, that is going to be focused, and the class name is going to be small-icon. And now let me close this div, and now let me add the else statement. Else I would like to return a div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be index, and now what I need to display is the index +1. That means the index will be incremented. Now here we do have our main return statement. Now let's start working on it to display our songs list. So in this return, let me create a div which is going to be having a class name that I'm going to be keeping it as in a curly braces. Let me just go with the curly braces and backticks, and let me go with song item as a class name for it. Alright, so after in this class, after the class name, I will even like to provide it an ID that is going to be when the user select. So it is going to be now selected, and on mouse over, let's go with, and I will call a function that is, I'll set a state value that is set hovered to true. Alright guys, and after that on mouse lever, let me add a on mouse lever, on mouse leaf, not a lever. I would like to set my hovered to false. Great. So after that, I would like to add an on click statement. In this on click, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my select song method, and I will pass the parameter in it, and then I will be using the dispatch method over here. In this, I would like to select the type, and I would like to select the type that is going to be player underscore state underscore selected. That means the user has selected this type, and I will select the payload to be 1. Great. Now let me end it with a semicolon. After that, inside this div, I would like to call my faster method that I have created. And after that, I would like to have a div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be name. And what I would like to display over here is that the name of the song. Then I would like to display the author, and then I would like to display the selector. So I would like to select this name and change it to the author, and this one also to the song's author. Then I do have a div which is having a class name over here that is going to be selector, and I would like to call my selector method over here. Great. So now we are all set with this return statement. Now let me create the map state to props component over here, as we have done in our before file. So let me create a const over here that is going to be map state to props, which is going to be taking a parameter that is going to be state, and now I would like to return it as an object because it is going to be having a key and its value. So the first key is going to be the selected song ID. I would like to select the state dot and set it to the selected song ID. Then I would like to select my player state dot player state. Great. So I think so now we are all set with that. Let me add the export statement to export it by default. I will be using the connect method, in which I'm going to be exporting this map state to props component, and inside an object I would like to export the select song, and then I would like to export my song item. Great. So I think so we are all set with song item. Let me just check it out. Let me open a browser screen, and as you can see, we got an error over here that this package is not found. Let's see which is this package. In package.json file, package path for this state is not found. Let me just do refresh it once again, and why is this error being occurred over here? Okay, so let's try to fix it. Let me click on view and click on terminal over here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop my server from running. The first thing I will be doing over here is that stop my server from running, and let me clear the code. And in my another terminal, I would like to close my another terminal and run over here npm install once again. And let's see, after installing all of the packages that we have installed or added, let's see whether it works fine or not. So guys, if till now you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. Alright guys, so now let me run my server back again, and let's see whether it works or not. Okay, so let me just run it in another port instead, because my old map, that means my created Spotify clone, is running on 3000 port. So now it will start in, I think so, 3001 port number. Let's see. Okay, so it started. Let's see whether our app gives us an error or it works or not. Right. Okay guys, so as you can see, still this error is being displayed to us. So let's see what is this error. Let me just check that out. It is saying that the export fields in this package.json for this just creases. Let me just check that out. So let me just close my terminal window over here and let me check all of my code once again, what I have done wrong over here. So let me scroll to the top and let me import this from React. Let me add all of the statements that I have messed up. Then I do have this select. Okay, I got that. Yeah, I got that. So this is the dispatch method that we are not going to be using over here, and that's it. I think so. Now we are all set. Now everything is going correct. Okay, so let me even come over here and find for the dispatch once more. It's called over here in a dispatch, which is having a type. So all right, yeah. There is something wrong still. Let me try to refresh, and as you can see, it is saying me that dispatch is not yet defined. So why is that happening? I really don't know why is that happening. Let me just check that out. I created a const over here, dispatch. Oh yeah, its spelling is wrong. Sorry, I apologize for that. It's my mistake. Boom, now it should work, guys. And as you can see, guys, I got my hashtag, I got my title and my others, but still our items are not being rendered over here, right? So let me just check it out, what is happening. So but as you can see, now there's no error being appeared over here, but why our list items are not being displayed? So let me just check that out. Alright guys, I got the error why it is not being displayed. Let me come to my app.js, and to this songs list I need to pass my songs data over here that I do get from my songs.json file, right? Of course, I know guys, you got confused. It's my wrong, I apologize for that. So let me import these songs from my JSON file. Great, and now let me just pass it to my songs list. That's my wrong, guys. I just forget to do that. So songs that equals to, I'm gonna pass my songs to this songs list variable or component. And now let me even create a for loop over here for let I that equals to a value of 0 if my index is less than my song's length. I would like to increment my index by 1. And now I'm going to be creating a variable of song that equals to my songs, and in this I'm going to pass its index. And then the song, I'm going to select my song specific songs id, song.id, that is going to be the id that is for my songs. That's it. Now let me open my project, and as you can see, this index is not defined. Why is that happening? It's not it's index. I apologize for that. So now let me just come back over here, and boom guys, as you can see, we got this beautiful titles, we got the order, and we got our download icon over here. When the user clicks over there, our downloading starts for the music, right? So all of our functionality is working over here, but when we do click over here, as you can see, the songs banners are also changing, but songs is not playing. So let's work with the player now. So now we are done with all of our code, and now let's start working with the player. So now what I'm going to do is over here is that import the player from player.js file. Simple now. Great, and now let me create a player.js file in my components directory. Oh, I apologize for that. It's not CSS, it's JS. Sorry for that. Great, player.js file, right? And now great. So now let me add the import statements. So the first thing I would like to import is going to be the CSS file for my player.js file, that is player.css. Then I would like to import the use effect hook I would like to import the use reference, and I would like to import use state hook from React. And now let me import connect and use dispatch from React Redux. So this is the last part for our player and our songs to work. And after that we are going to import forward SVG. These are the SVGs that we are using for the player. So forwards SVG, then let me add column backwards SVG, and then we are having the shuffle SVG that will be imported from our SVG file that we have created in a SVG directory. After that, I would like to import the set player state from the actions and select song by ID from the action. Great. And now let me import the progress from the progress bar. After that, I would like to import a song time from the song item or song time. I apologize. Oh yeah, we are going to be creating a song time file for now. Okay, great. So now we are all set with this. Now let's create a file for songtime.js in which we are going to be writing the code for our song's timeline that will be running down below, right? So now let's create a new file in our components and name that file as songtime.js. This file is going to be including the code for our player, that means the timeline that will be running below of our song or at the top of our player. So let me import the connect from Redux over here. React Redux, I apologize for that. It's not Redux, it's React Redux. Then I would like to import React from React, and then I would like to import the CSS file for it, that is the songtime.css. Great. So let me check whether this file I have included or not. Yes, I have included it. Great. Now this is going to be a class that we are going to be using that extends the React component. Great. And it's going to be rendering a method in which you're going to be having a return statement, and in this return we are going to be having a div which is going to be having a class name which is going to be music hyphen timer, and in this div I would be having one more div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be completed, and we are going to be having some stylings that we are going to be providing to it, that is going to be the width of the backsticks we are going to be using over here with the dollar curly braces, in which I would like to have this parenthesis this dot props dot current location I would like to select, and that will be divided by this dot props dot duration, and then I would like to multiply it by 100. This is for the timeline, and after the curly braces ends over here, I would like to have a percentage symbol, and that's it. We are all set. And over here I would like to close my div. Great. And now we are all set with this return statement. Now let me create the map to state component over here. Map state to props that takes the state in it, and it should return it as an object with the key of duration that is going to be state dot duration, and then we would like to have the current location that's going to be state dot current location, and Then we would like to have this export default statement, in which you're going to be using this connect method, in which you're going to be passing this map state to props, and then we would like to pass this song time. So guys, I know this code was a bit tougher, but it is really good for the player that runs when our songs increments. So it is not that hard. We have done simple thing. I will explain you what we have done in this songtime.js file. I created this class that is a React component, in which I created a div, and what I did over here, I provided it a width. That means this is a simple div in which we have provided a width that is having a styling that will be incremented when our songs is being playing. As I will show you in my created project. For an example, if I do come over here and play this thing, which you can see over here, I'm just talking about this thing that is the player, right? I'm just talking about that. So I said the width is going to be depending on the this.props on the current location we are, that will be divided by the props duration, that will be multiplied by 100. It is really simple, and the duration we are getting from this state to props key value, which you can see it over here, and the current location also we are getting it from this specific state for our song. So it is really simple. Now let's come back to our player.js file and start working with our player. So now we have imported all of our stuffs. Now let's create our component. It's going to be a player component, which is going to be taking some of the parameters, that is going to be selected song by ID. We are going to be having a default song parameter. Then we're going to be having a player state parameter. It's player state. Then another one is going to be the songs parameter. Then we're going to be having the select song by ID parameter that we have already used, but we're going to be importing it once more. That doesn't matter at all. And the last one is going to be volume. Simple. Great. Now we're going to be using some of the variables that we're going to be creating over here with the use effect hook. So let's create the first one, that is going to be for using the dispatch in our React project. Then let me create a state value for shuffling it. So I will be calling it as shuffled, and set shuffled. When the user clicks over there, I would like to set it to true. Then let me create a variable for my audio reference, in which I would like to use my use reference. And now let me create a variable that is going to be let clicked to false. This is when we are going to be using it for playing over music or not. So by default it is false, that means the music is not going to be played. Now we are going to be having different components. So first of all, what I'm going to do over here is that I will be creating the components, and then I will be writing its functionality. So it will be helping you all guys to understand that these are the components and why we are using these components in our project, what that component is doing in our project, and which functionality is working with that specific component, right? So let's start it. And the code will be really clean and simple for you all guys to understand it more nicely and easily. So let me create the first component, that is going to be space down function, which is going to be taking a parameter in it that is going to be event. Okay, and then we are going to be having second component, that is going to be space up function, which is going to take an event in it. Simple. So now we have created this top two components over here. One is for our space down function, and the second one is for the space up function. After that, we are going to be using the use effect hook over here. So I'm simply defining it over here, but I'm not doing anything over here, right? So now let's work with our space down function. In this, I would like to use the if loop. I'm gonna say if my event dot key code, because this depends on the computer, that means our keyboard code. If it is 32 and if it clicked is false, I would like to set my clicked value to true, and then I would like to select my document dot get elements by class name. and the main hyphen control is the class name, which is index is 0, and I would like to click on it. Simple. This is our first component. And now let's work with this space up function, which is also going to be taking event as its parameter. And now I'm going to be selecting event dot. I would like to have my key code that is triple equals to 32 and clicked. If my clicked is true, I would like to select make it false. So over here, let me select my clicked and make it false. Simple. This is used for our spacebar to make it our player work and stop. Right guys, and now let me come to this use effect, and what I'm going to do is I would like to select my document dot add event listener. Now I'm going to be adding an event listener to my this classes. One is for key down. When this class is called, I would like to call this space down function. And now I would like to copy and paste it once more, and I would like to add this event listener for the key up functionality. And over here I would like to select my space up function in simple words, right? So here do our use effect hook ends. After that, I would like to have an if statement over here, and I would like to select if my selected song ID is less than 0, or if my selected song ID is greater than the song's length. I would like to decrement it by 1 or minus it by 1 and select my songs by ID, which is over here, and I would like to assign it a value of 0 in simple words, right guys? And now we are going to be having another use effect hook. So don't worry at all guys if you're not understanding what I'm doing over here now. I will be explaining you after finishing the code once and showing you how it works. Great, so it will be really good for you all guys. So I'm going to select my audio reference over here and select my current state. Then audio dot reference, audio reference dot current dot volume. I would like to select my volume and divide it by 500. Am I correct guys? No, it's not volume, it's volume. I apologize for that once again. And then I would like to call this state every single time my volume changes, of course, right guys? And after that, let me create another 2-3 components more. That is going to be when our music plays, what I need to do is when our music goes backward, what I need to do is when we click on the forward button, what we need to do. So let's create their components now. This is the main functionality. On music play, we are going to be taking an event, and every component should return something, but this is not for the return work. This is for the statements. So the second component is going to be on backward, click, and the third component is going to be on forward, click. So we have created these 3 components. Now the first component on music play, we are going to select and prevent it by as default. What we need is, when the user plays the music, I don't want my page to be reload. If it reloads, of course it's not going to work. So I will be preventing my E as default, and I'm going to say if my player state is false, I would like to select my audio reference dot current and dot I would like to play it. And now I will be using the dispatch method to provide it a type that is going to be player underscore state underscore selected state, and then I would like to set my payload to 1. Great. Else I would like to select my audio reference dot current dot I would like to pause it, and then I would like to use the dispatch method over here, and I would like to set the type that is going to be player state selected, and the payload I would like to set it back to 0, its value. Great. So this is the component functionality that we have written for the on music play. Now let's work on backward click. When the user clicks on that, I would like to see if my selected song by ID is greater than 0. I would like to set my selected song by ID to the selected song that user has selected. Selected song ID, that will be minus by 1. So this is selected song ID. I apologize for that. And great. And after this on forward click, I would like to use the if statement, and if my selected song ID is less than song's length, I would like to decrement it by 1. Alright, and I would like to select my song by ID, and I would like to select my song by ID, selected song ID, sorry. And I would like to increment it by 1 in simple words. Alright guys, so now we have done with it. Now we are going to be working on a use effect hook. So let me create the use effect over here. So this use effect is called, I would like to have the dispatch over here, to which I would like to provide it a type when my player state is selected. And I would like to set my payload to 1. And audio reference dot current will be a play. Then I would like to select a document dot get element by ID, and I would like to select it focus hyphen link ID, and then I would like to call my click method in it, that the user have clicked on it. And then I would like to select my window dot history dot, I would like to use the push state over here, in which I would like to pass an empty object with an empty strings and an empty strings with the hashtag in it. Great. And this state value will called anytime my selected song ID is changed and if my dispatch is changed. Great. So we are all set with this use effect hook, and now let me create another one. In this use effect, I would like to call my dispatch method over here, in which I would like to select the type, which is going to be player underscore state underscore selected, and I would like to select my payload and set its value to 0. And then audio reference dot current dot, I will call the post method over here, and this will be running every single time the dispatch changes. Great. And now let's work on our return statement. So after this, we would like to have our main return statement, in which we are going to be styling our player. And after that, we would like to have a component for our map state props. So let me create it over here, which is going to take state as a parameter in it, and then I would like to return it as an object, in which I would like to select this song ID and set its state to the selected song ID. And then we are going to be having the second one, that is going to be the default song, that will be selected songs and the index is going to be 0. Then we are going to be having the player state, that will be state dot player state. Then we're going to be selecting the songs and setting it to the songs as we have done it before. Then the volume, that is going to be state dot volume. Great. And now we are all set with it. Now let me add the export by default statement over here, in which I will be using the connect method and pass my map state to props in it, and use an object and set my player state and selected song by ID. Then I would like to use over here another one, and I would like to even pass my player in it. Great. And now we are all set with our export statement. Now let's work with our return, because we are getting the error over here because we have not yet defined anything. So in this return, I would like to have a div which is going to be having an ID of player. And in this, the first thing I would like to call is going to be the song time. Okay, the first thing, because I would like to display that player. When the music plays, I would like to display that width that will be incremented related to our song's timeline. All right. So first I would like to call that. Then I would like to have a div which is going to be having a class name that will be used for the control. Okay, then we would like to even be having an ID of it that is going to be shuffled. If my shuffled is true, the ID is going to be active. If it is false, the ID is going to be null. So the styling depends on it. And now when the user clicks on it, I would like to call a function in which I would like to set my shuffled to the opposite of shuffled. Great. Great. And now in this div, I would like to display the shuffle SVG animation, right? Let me save it. And now when I do come to my project, I do get an error over here to this export statement. Why? Because we do get this error because alright, because I have done it wrong. I would like to end it at the end of my code. Alright, so now we are all set. So after displaying my shuffle SVG that I have displayed over here, I would like to have another div. So I would like to provide a space in between, so it will be really easy for you all guys to understand it more easily. So let me create a div over here which is going to be having a class name for our control. And when the user clicks on it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call a function that is going to be on backward click function, and which icon I need to display over here, that is backwards SVG in simple word. So we do get an error because this should be inside this div. I apologize for that, it's my mistake. Great. And after displaying the backwards SVG, we would like to display the pause button. So let's create a div which is going to be having class name that is going to be main control class, and when the on click we are going to be having, when the user clicks on that, we are going to be calling this on music play function. Great. So in this div, I would like to have a font or some icon. So I would like to use the class name over here, which is going to be used inside a curly braces. We would like to have a backtext fa hyphen. Here we are using the dollar symbol with the curly braces in it. And we're gonna see if my player state is true, I would like to display the pause. If it is false, I would like to display the play icon. Simple. And after this curly braces hyphen, it should be in a circle class that I have provided to it. And now my I tag is going to be ended. And now after this main control div, we are going to be having another div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be a control class, and on click statement. When the user clicks on it, I would like to call a function that is going to be on forward click and display the icon that is going to be for my forward SVG. Great. So now we have set with it. Now let me set my audio player, right? So let me set out my audio player over here. So after this div do ends, I would like to call my progress component over here, And now let's use the audio tag for displaying the audio. We are going to be having some ID over here. So what I'm having a code for this audio reference. I would like to copy that to make the video simple and paste it out here. So that's it, guys. So I created this audio tag which is having an ID of main track, and I need the controls of this audio. So I'm using this controls statement. Then the source is song selected by ID, its URL, and the preload is set it to true. And when my songs ends, I would like to select my song by ID and shuffle it out. If my shuffled is true, I would like to use this method.round method and run the song from the scratch by selecting its length. And if it is false, I would like to select my song's ID and increment it by 1. And over here it comes on loaded metadata, in which I would like to select this dispatch method and set its type to the duration. And then I would like to select my payload and select its audio reference to the current duration. And then I'm having this set interval, in which I'm setting the interval dispatch type to the set current location and the payload to the audio reference current time, which will be running after every single milliseconds. And after that, we are having a reference that is using this audio reference that we have defined over here, and it is going to be hidden by default. Then I'm displaying a simple text over here that your browser does not support the code, and in which you are displaying the audio, like some of the browsers which do not support this audio functionality and much more. But if you are using the Chrome, of course I do give guarantee that it's going to be working fine. And guys, this one will be ending over here. I apologize for that, it's my mistake. And that's it, we are all set with our Spotify clone, right? So let's check whether our Spotify clone is working fine or not. So when I do open over here, and we got an error that is saying this progress bar is not defined. Alright guys, I apologize for that. Once again, a big mistake that we have not created the progress file yet. So let's create a file over here that is going to be progressbar.js. In this, we are going to be writing the code for the progress bar functionality that we do have import statements over here that will be imported from React. Then we would like to import the connect from the React Redux. And after that, I would like to import set volume from the actions, and let me import the CSS file for making it work. Great. Now it is going to be a class. Okay, it's going to be a class of progress bar that extends the React component. And now we're going to be using the constructor method over here, which is going to take a parameter of props, and it's going to be a super props, and I'm gonna still set its state that is going to be equal to show tooltip bar. Okay, show tooltip. That I would like to set it to false. And now we are going to be using the render method over here, and this is going to return us something. In this return, I would like to have a div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be progress for our progress bar. So progress, and in this we would like to have an input which is going to be having a type of range. So why we are defining this is just for our volume functionality, so the user can increase and decrease the volume that I just forget to create. I just called this component, but I have not yet created it. That is my mistake, I do apologize for that. But now we are creating it, which is minimum value is going to be 0 and the maximum value is going to be 100. And now let me add a class name to it that is going to be slider. And now let's set its value. By default, the value is going to be this dot props dot volume. Great. So over here I do call the volume, and after that I would like to have an on change in it. On change of it, I would like to fire an event, and then this dot props dot set volume to the e dot targets value that the user have changed, as we do in our forms input. And now we are going to be using the on mouse enter, in which I would like to set this dot state, not this dot set state, okay, not this dot state dot, it's this dot stay set state, and in which I would like to select my show tooltip and set it to true. After that I would like to have a on mouse leave. This dot set state method I would like to use over here and select my show tooltip and set it back to false. And now I would like to close my input. And now what I would like to display over here is this dot state dot show tooltip. If it is true, I would like to have a span tag which is going to be having a class name that is going to be tooltip. Alright, and now let me close this span tag, and in this span tag what I want to display, I would like to display is this dot props dot volume, and if it is null, if it is false, I would like to display null. Simple guys, and now we are all set with it. And now let me close my return statement and create a mapped state props over here component, which takes a state as a parameter in it, in which we are going to be returning it as an object. The key is going to be the volume, and we're going to set it as state dot volume. And now let me export it by default using the connect method, exporting the map state to props comma set volume, and then I would like to even export the progress bar. Great. So we are all set with our progress bar functionality. Let's come to our code editor, our browser screen over here, and let's see our code. So when I do refresh, as you can see, our progress bar is not displaying over here, and when I do click over here, our song is also not playing. So why is this happening? So let me just check that out. Alright guys, I fixed the issue. The issue was that I stopped my server back again. I just stopped my server from running, and I just run the npm install back again, installed all of my packages again once again, and then I run my server again. And now as you can see, the icons are also being displayed over here for the Spotify and GitHub repo. And the mistake was that, guys, in my package.json file, what was happening is that I was not getting the version to be displayed over here that I want to, the latest version. That's why the icons was not being displayed. So that was the issue. And now as you can see, we do have the player icons, and our player is also being displayed over here, right? So now when I do click over, as you can see, our music starts playing. The user can download, the user can set the volume to 0, 50 and 100 as the user likes. So this is how to create a Spotify clone with React.js and Redux. So it was, guys, a lengthy video, so it took my effort on creating this tutorial video. So if you like the tutorial video, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. And that's it for the video. The source code for it is provided in my GitHub repo. just come to the link will be provided in the description below. Just come to the link that I have provided to you, and you can just directly clone it out. Let me just come to the repositories and select it. As you can see, the Spotify clone, you can directly clone it from here, or you can download it as zip. It depends on you. So the source code is provided over here, and if you like the tutorial video on how to create a Spotify clone with React, just comment down below. I will create a next video on how to create a Spotify app with full functionality with React Native. Alright guys, so that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next amazing tutorial video. Thanks for watching. Till then, peace.